pandemic trapped a bunch of aging role-playing gamers in their homes, forcing them to crawl out of their pen and paper comfort zone and into the online world of virtual tabletops and video calls. So join them as they raise the curtain to share their stories, insights, and love of all things geek. So grab your longsword and your +1 bottle of Viagra and get ready for another episode of Advanced Age Role-Playing Gamers Podcast. That's a lot of syllables for one sentence.
Hello and welcome to the Advanced Age Role-Playing Gamers Podcast. I'm Nathan. I'm one of your co-hosts tonight, and I've also got with me...
Matt, I'm your other co-host.
Yay! And I've got Tony, Kurt, and David with Battlelords of the 23rd Century with us again for the second time. So thanks for coming back. I'm amazed you actually came back. That's I don't know what's wrong with you, but we're happy to have you. So if you guys could go around and just do a quick intro, hopefully the folks have watched the last one, but just to refresh your memories, Tony, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. I'm Tony O. I'm the resident taskmaster around here. My job is to keep everybody moving and bug them until they do.
Hence his nickname of Executor or Executor, depending on what he's doing.
What kind of mood he's in. All right, David, why don't you go next?
Hi, David Saruco, CDO, OCD, but in the proper alphabetical order. And just helping to do a lot of things around the company. I do a lot of the editing because I'm the one who says this is off by 2 pixels. Can we fix that, please?
Hence the OCD. Understandable. Exactly. And Kurt.
And I am Kurt. They nickname me the Viking because I do heavy lifting. And I do a lot of the layout and write a lot of the species information as well as the equipment kind of descriptions. So I've been gaming for a long time.
You're in good company. So tonight, for your listeners out there, we're gonna talk a little bit about Fully Armored. It's they just had a successful Kickstarter for the supplement for the 7th edition of Battlelords of the 23rd Century, and we're going to talk about Savage Battlelords. It's the conversion of the Battlelords IP to the Savage Worlds system. So I think we'll start off with Fully Armored and just talk about how do you guys feel about having another successful Kickstarter? How does that feel, Tony?
My perspective is I think we're getting better at it and in sort of everything. Production, timelines, cost estimating, running a Kickstarter, setting a Kickstarter. I don't think we're setting any records, but I think we're certainly getting more proficient at it. And I think that's going to show when people get the product.
That's awesome. Yeah, not exactly Brandon Sanderson. So
yeah, he's up to what, $24 million?
That's crazy. I back that too. I have a problem when it comes to Kickstarter. Kurt, how did it feel for you?
I mean, for me, I'm just excited that there's that many people that want the product. I mean, we put a lot of time and effort into it, and we really love the system. So it's just exciting that many people want more.
Awesome. And last but not least, David.
It's nice to continue to grow the audience. The game's kind of lay fallow for a while, and so a lot of people drifted away, and we're starting to reconnect with a lot of the original group and starting to bring in a lot of new people. And at Gen Con, we were able to connect with a lot of people, and we even had what we called the Stranger Things crowd come in. So it's nice to see young gamers coming in and embracing their inner Battlelords.
There you go. I'm going to pass the mic over to Matt here and see what questions do you have for the team.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask, so things like Kickstarter, how is that providing like new opportunities for what I would say like indie developers and indie publishers like yourselves? Whereas before, if you wanted to create a game, you had to either find backers on your own or cover all the costs. Now, how does something like Kickstarter change sort of the market or the environment for people who want to publish RPGs or TTRPGs?
I published my first RPG professionally 20 years ago. And it was the 3 Fs, friends, family, and personal finances. And if you didn't have those, you weren't publishing. No one was going to give you money for a book. Kickstarter and crowdfunding in general has basically allowed, I think, the indie game scene to grow exponentially. I know we probably would not be able, I think we'd still be here, but I don't think we'd be able to put out products nearly as fast as we would, or as we have, compared to the old days where it was print a book, sell as many copies of that book as you can until you had enough money to make another one, which could take years.
You'd be seeing a whole lot more PDFs.
Yeah. That's another thing that's really changed things, right? You can get onto you can lay things out and be ready to go for Drive-Thru-RPG and get things done that way too. So it really, between crowdfunding and alternative ways of deploying content, the world has really changed in this market.
Yeah, one thing I noticed is really developed this whole ecosystem about not just the game designers, but also the artists and editors and marketing folks, and there's just this whole ecosystem about surrounding self-publishing. So it's I think it's good for the hobby. It gets a lot more voices in there, and you're seeing games that you never would have seen 20, 30 years ago. And people can just go and try stuff. So yeah.
I don't think people who have done it before realize how lower the burdens of entry have become over the years. There's a lot of people who helped us out early on because there was a 20-year gap between when I did my first game and when we took over the helm for Battlelords. And a lot of people sort of helped me build up that knowledge and helped us as a company. And I'm trying to pay that forward. And I talked to a lot of people on our Twitter account. And they're like, oh, I've got this game idea and I'd like to publish it. And I'm like, do it. I mean, it's people, it's much easier today to get something published via crowdfunding than having to do it the old way. And I'm like, I will show you how to do this. And you can do it. So I think it's definitely helped.
So can you give us an update on where things are with Fully Armored and bringing it to the backers?
Sure.
We are waiting on several pieces of art to finish up, as well as we've gone through the first major round of editing. We've got a few more things flowing in. Once all that gets back and I get it updated in the book, then we'll release an alpha version basically before we send it to print to make sure the more eyes, the better. They'll find more errors. We'll get as much as we can fixed ahead of time, and then it's out to print. Our goal is to have it there. So when we go to Gen Con, it's, hey, look at our new book.
Awesome. Yeah, Matt and I are thinking about maybe going, but maybe not. So it is still up in the air for now.
Have you guys ever been to Gen Con before?
No.
Then you need to go.
I know.
It's a rite of passage in the gaming community.
It feels so weird that we haven't for as long as we've been gaming, especially together. So Matt and I went to high school together. We go back a little ways there, but so
we dipped this is kind of off top. We dipped our toes into PAX Unplugged. Was sort of our first official foray into a con as with the podcast. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Media.
Yeah,
I lost track of how many Gen Cons I've been to. I started in '88. Was my 88 or '86 was my first Gen Con.
Well, because they live in Indiana, so even going to Wisconsin to it was a little bit easier.
Yeah. Again, lowering that bar for entry there. But, so for folks that aren't familiar with the Fully Armored Kickstarter, do one of you want to kind of cover what's in that product?
Sure. 186 pages of toys, armor, guns, cool things to do all kinds of stuff. Kit you'd use to set up a base camp, kit you'd use to fix people around the base camp, all kinds of just anything you'd find in military ops, just all kinds of stuff. So all kinds of fun stuff. We also have cybernetics in there. Yes, you can get that cybernetic hand, crush your enemies. I crush your head. I crush your head.
I can definitely attest that if you think that you have too much equipment, you don't, right? So we went through on character creation in the Battlelords book, and we're all looking through, and that's a big book, right? So we're going through and picking, and then Chris is like, "Oh yeah, don't forget, we've got the fully armored PDF," and we're like, "Oh." So it's just like, oh my goodness! It's like I think that's why it took us 2 session zeros, because we kind of did all the life path stuff, and then we're like, well, what do you want to wear? And everyone kept saying, don't pick the wrong helmet. The helmet's everything, And so, it was kind of like walking in as a kid to like a giant toy store, and I think it's nice because it allows for so many different styles of play. Someone who wants to use all fire or chemical, or one person wants to use rockets. It seems a lot, but once you start delving in, you can really. Like I said, we're having a lot of fun with it. So, yeah, keep the equipment coming. You can never have too much.
Yep. Yeah, and that was actually one of the goals of the equipment. So with the book, as you said, it's huge. We had to cut a lot of stuff out to get it down to that svelte, 5.5 pounds. It does D4 damage when you hit somebody with it. Right. So one of the things we couldn't do is really give a broad range in any of the categories of weapons or armor. So we kind of had to well, here's a low, here's a medium, here's a high. Good, next one. Low, medium, high. And so there's not as much variety. And so one of the things we could do with the space that we had now is, okay, let's really start to fill in and give lots of different options. So you get to things where they're affectionately called the bargain basement weapons or bargain basement armor, where, they're a little less reliable and make for fun moments sometimes. What's that click, click, click noise I'm hearing? What?
Yeah, you don't go to war with the gear you want. You go to war with the gear you have. So the
gear you can loot.
Don't buy the lowest bidder. I tell everybody when they're making characters, I said, once you figure out what your budget is, divide it in half, spend half of it on weapons and equipment and the other half on armor, helmet, and options. And that usually helps them. Okay, here's the stuff I can afford.
Yeah, that's actually Chris. So Chris is our GM for this. For the actual play, and that's exactly what he told us too. Is like you can spend at least half on armor, and so far none of us have died. We're 3 sessions in now. Have no idea when we're going to release these, but we're about 3 sessions in, having fun, and nobody's died yet. So, but I did blow off Matt's character's helmet last episode, so super fun.
That sounds like a good game.
Yeah. Oops.
Yep. Yeah. We like to say it's not a question of if you die or when, but how often, and can you afford to come back?
Well, right. What is it? What's the one piece of it? So these are, for us, it's a lot of new. For people who've played your game for a long time, they're probably familiar with these, but I'm always excited about finding what is the head bag or the
hat box.
The hat box. That's
yes.
Could you guys explain the hat box?
Kurt.
All right. Well, the hat box is designed so when somebody's down and it would take just way too much time to get them up and repaired and, get them back to a surgeon, you just place this device over their head with this handy dandy carrying case. It envelops the head with the little shears at the bottom, which cut through and remove the head. And at the same time, it's cryogenically preserving it. So awesome. You just pick up, the medic doesn't have to carry anything more than the head and run it back, and you can grow them a new body or get them a cybernetic one. But, you save the head. In fact, the Alliance has the Save the Head initiative as part of their military planning.
That's awesome.
And now with Fully Armored, I've added some new toys along those lines, like the Hat Collector, which now the battlefield medics can literally throw it on, drop it, and the Hat Collector robot will come along and pick it up and carry hats back to the base.
Wow.
I can see if I were running that and there was a hat collector, I would give it to a robot that had gone slightly insane who would use it prematurely. That's the only thing I can. That seems a lot of fun to me.
With the Atlanteans, that's always a possibility.
Yeah. I stubbed my toe. Hatbox.
Yeah. That's the other piece of equipment. The new one, the Automedic, the crawler.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. It looks like a giant slug, and as it inhales you in to repair you, well, sometimes the DNA detectors might get a little dirty. Sometimes that scale that was on your, because you're sharing a bunk with him, his scales are on you, so it misreads your DNA. So you might be a human coming out with a ram python leg or arm. But it does return you to 95% combat efficiency.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed. Or
So
your
that
money
is
back,
clearly for his what could be. I mean, so clearly you could play this game ultra seriously, but you guys have definitely built in sort of a dark humor, sort of with this system, with this gear. It is definitely not. This is not a federation, or this is not the bright future we all dream for.
As Tony likes to say, everything in Battlelords is designed by the lowest common bidder.
Yeah, it's just like real life.
Exactly.
So, is there anything else you want to cover as far as fully armored goes before we dip into the Savage version?
I'm whipping Kurt as fast as I can to get him to get all the corrections in, but he can only go so fast.
Hey, Kurt, I want my stuff, so
I get that PDF out as soon as we can.
a number one backer here.
There you go.
All right, well, that's awesome. So I'm definitely really excited to get like the final product and the actual book too. Because the PDFs are nice, but I really like holding the physical book. So I'm looking forward to getting those and throwing those in my shelf back there. Yeah.
Well, especially, I mean, that's one of the things we really liked with doing this is we found some great artists, and they have done some great work on it. So, I mean, you saw what we had in the original, and we're just getting more of it. Tony's posted some of it on our social media, and you can see they're putting out some quality work. I'm very impressed with it. So
before we go on, Jackalope, do you guys want to tell us about the Jackalope a bit?
I don't remember whose idea the jackalope was. Do you guys remember? Somebody came up with it.
I think we were all joking around, and I grew up in parts of Kansas, so one of the legends out there is the jackalope, and so we were talking about it at something, and it's been back and forth with the thought for years, and then I think finally we just said, yeah, we need to put that in there. That's too funny not to.
The fodder are genetically engineered rabbit-human chimeras, hybrids, and at some point, if they're just a mix of DNA, how do we know there's not like deer or elk in there too? And then we're like, we need a jackalope. So there are now jackal variants of the FOT, and the first picture of them will appear in fully armored. And of course, knowing our fans are as detail oriented as we are, I knew the first question we'd get was, how does she get her helmet on? And sure enough, that was the one we got first.
Yeah, right. Very carefully.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to getting that in my hand. So, tell us about. I know we covered a little bit of this in our last review, but let's dig a little deeper on and how this whole Savage Battlelords mashup come to be. Like, whose idea was that?
I think that was probably my brainchild. We love Battlelords. I mean, we loved it enough to take over the company from the previous owners and keep the game alive. So we love the game system that is Battlelords, how detailed it is, how it rewards people who dig into it. But it is a bit simulationist. It's very gritty and graphic, and it's designed to model those military sci-fi injuries in combat. And when we started about 2017, there was a growing interest in more streamlined games, faster, quicker, simpler rule set. And as we released Battlelords, people were like, this is great, we love the setting, but is there anything that's a little less detail-oriented, less crunchy? And so I started looking at alternatives, and I'm a big fan of you need to model the rule set on the setting. So I really didn't want to do 5e, because to me, everything you do in 5e is still Dungeons and Dragons 5e.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah.
And so I was looking for other open rule sets. What other companies have games out there that they'll let you use their rules for? And we came across a couple other options, and Savage Worlds seemed like the best fit. It's their fast, furious, fun rule set. And it's a system that's designed and encouraged people to make your own setting, make a custom rule set to model that setting using ours as a base. And so that's what we decided to do.
So how's the reception been from the people? Because I've on your Discord, you've had people doing some testing and play testing on it. How's the reception been so far?
It's hard to tell. I think the proof will be in the pudding, so to speak, when the Kickstarter launches. We're hoping it's going to be a big success, but I think the most difficult thing, and our playtesters have been great about this, is we still get this needs to be simpler, this needs to be faster, and so we're constantly refining it down. But there is that line where we want to model the setting and elements within the setting, like how the armor and weapons work. And that is going to add a little bit of complexity, but I want to make that as quick and fast and fun as we can to match that Savage Worlds mindset.
Just one thing to echo you right there, like for myself, when we've tried to take a game that we liked and throw it into other systems, like sometimes it just didn't feel like that game anymore, and that kind of took me out of the immersion of so a setting that we really liked, and so that is important. So I would encourage you to stick by that. It still has to playing just a few sessions of Battlelords. I can tell you it has a certain feel to it, and if you can capture that and with the Savage Worlds rules, I think the players are going to get a lot out of that. So.
I think certainly that the Savage Worlds rules in general, that rule set encourages what I sort of call high adventure. So I think you're going to see a little bit more over the top sort of action movie play out of Battlelords, but because one of my main goals was to model the weapons and armor. So I think what people will find when they do that, you can still do that. You can still have the Eridani doing a triple backflip out of the trench with the plasma sword and landing on the arachnid, and have that action movie sort of high adventure feel. But what they're going to run into is that character is still going to get shot and die because the weapons and armor mechanics are modeled fairly accurately. The good news is, like Dave said, in Battlelords, we're like, oh, well, he's dead, we'll fix him. So but I think it will encourage a little bit more of that sort of over the top action movie adventure that traditional Battlelords tends to punish just a little when you do stuff like that. And it's like, well, you can jump out of the trench, but I'm not pulling your corpse back in.
If there's anything left.
Yeah.
Right. So do you see so expanding into the Savage Worlds sort of system, do you see this as sort of expanding almost into two different experiences and possibly two different crowds of players, or or do you think people will swing between, gosh, I'm not sure how to, so like people will play Savage Battlelords when they're looking for a fast and quick adventure, but still play the traditional 7th edition Battlelords most of the time? Or do you think this is going to be for sort of two different audiences, right? One looking for a more streamlined experience, and then those who are still comfortable with and really enjoy that sort of traditional Battlelords experience?
I think it's going to be both. I think primarily what we're looking at is two different audiences. I can guarantee you there's going to be some people who play both, and there's going to be crossover from one to the other, both directions. But we're not releasing this product in this game to say, look how cool this is, now go play the original. If you like that one, we're happy with that. We're bringing the Battlelords setting into a new rule set, a new crowd. And I think if people are content to play the Savage Worlds version of the game, that's great. If they want to play the traditional version of the game, that's great. I think we will get some crossover, like I said, both ways, but I think primarily it's going to be two different audiences. And that's fine. I mean, one of our goals was to expand the number of people playing Battlelords. And whatever rule set you're doing to accomplish that, I mean, that doesn't really matter to us.
Yeah,
that's true, because it is a very rich background and very rich setting, right? That's what were some of the biggest challenges mechanically converting to Savage? Like what elements of maybe like character creation or some of the more crunchy bits that were the hardest to translate?
Dave, did you want to say something before I address that?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I was just going to say, I mean, just in terms of groups of audiences and things, so kind of getting away from mechanics specifically, one of our core rules, rule number 1 is have fun. So if having fun is Savage World style or our rule set style, it doesn't matter. Have fun.
To address your question, mechanically, the hardest thing that I've had to deal with is in order to keep Savage Worlds fast, there is no counting. There's no tracking of any numbers beyond, say, the 3 wounds that the character can take. So I like to joke, as long as you can count to 3, you're good. Battlelords, the traditional rule set, is very number intensive. There's a lot of counting. There are also a lot of, and we even minimized it from the prior editions. That was one of the things we tried to get rid of, but there's still, armor is ablative. You have to wear it down before it has an effect. And Savage Worlds does not have that kind of mechanic. It discourages that mechanic. They don't want the players to keep track of, how many hit points do I have left, or how many more hits can my armor take. It's always reference this number, and if that number changes, you've had an effect. Or if you exceeded that number, met or exceeded, you've had an effect. And that number really doesn't change. So that was probably the toughest part for me, because there are a lot of mechanics that I'm trying to implement in Savage Worlds that in a Battlelords, traditional Battlelords context, are counting mechanics. How many points of damage can this flux shield take before it folds? They don't do that in Savage Worlds. So that was probably the toughest thing for me. And I think we've come up with some creative solutions. There's still some counting involved, but we've come up with some creative ways to, again, keep those numbers very low.
It's awesome. I got a chance to flip through the Savage conversion book today. And one thing, maybe I missed it. So if I did, I apologize. One of the really awesome things that we thought was the character creation process and some of the life path sort of things. And are those included in the Savage conversion? And if not, is that something that you guys have ever considered to possibly publish separately as a supplement for the Savage Worlds players, if it's not in the actual rule books themselves? Because I think we really enjoyed the character creation process and the random tables. And
it's something that's, it's not in the core rules. And that's specifically because we were trying to keep it simple and digestible. But right now there are 3 Savage Worlds or Savage Battlelords books that are done. Essentially, I finished the last one last week. So we've got the core rules, we've got the Carnage Companion, and we've got the tentatively titled Alliance Setting Guide. We may put the life path and character generation in the settings guide for people who want it. And there is a sort of an abridged version of that in the Savage Worlds version of Rifts. So it can be done.
Yes.
But what we've encountered with a lot of our play testers, particularly on a system like Battlelords, where there's a large power scale in terms of what you can do or are capable of, they really put an emphasis on balance. And to a lot of our play testers, that kind of random character generation where somebody could end up with an advantage or a disadvantage compared with somebody else in a group was an anathema to them. They did not like that.
Gotcha.
It was something that from my perspective, most Savage Worlds players are not a big fan of because everybody's equal. They take great pains to make sure everybody's equal at the start, despite these diverse and broad characters that you can make. And when you get a table that messes with that, well, now Bob, he's got 5 more skill points than I do, and I've got a D4 agility. That sucks. So it was not something that we got a lot of positive feedback during playtesting stages.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like you don't want to tell people they're having fun wrong, even though that we really like the whole life path, and not just other in several other games we played too. It's just a whole kind of mini game within itself, and for me, I like it because it if I have 50% of an idea for a character, and you go through the life path, and it's like, and it just really helps me flesh it out, and throws me some curveballs that I have to kind of figure out how to work into my character. So, I like it.
Issue we ran into, and this again in regards to your mechanical question, is granularity. And this is something that Dave and I talk about all the time. With Battlelords, it's a percentile-based system. 1 to 100. So if you are rolling on that growing up table and you lose 5 points of agility, it's not going to kill that character. In Savage Worlds, you're basically going from D4 to D12. So your scale is 4 to 12. So even a 1 point change in those attributes or skills or a penalty to those is going to be dramatic. So if we do move forward with a life path kind of system that I was just growing up tables, it would probably be something where we strip out the mechanics and it's more of just a background of what your character did in the past and where they're from, as opposed to you get these 3 skills and another 5% of agility.
I think that's a good compromise.
Yeah, I'd sort of run that because I had gone through the same thing converting, because I had old Rifts, right, which was Palladium was a D100 system, and then having to shift over, it's that same thing, right? It's a much tighter system in the Savage conversion.
Yeah, so are all 3 books going to be part of this upcoming Kickstarter?
Potentially. That's the catch, is what we're going to do with this Kickstarter is, rather than having stretch goals where we'll throw in a t-shirt or dog tags. Once we hit a certain goal, book number 2 becomes available. And then once we hit the next goal beyond that, book number 3 becomes available. So our backers the demand for the books determines whether they're going to be available as part of that Kickstarter. And it's really just, once we hit the point where we can cover the printing cost of that book, then it's available. So it's just, can we get there numbers wise?
Otherwise, it's PDF.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about the Carnage Companion and the 3rd book. So what are those extra 2 books gonna add to the game?
Sure. The Carnage Companion, the first thing it does is, like I said, Savage Worlds players, the goal of that system is fast, fun, and furious. And to address the fast part, the first chapter in the Carnage Companion are pre-made teams. They're ready to go, ready to play. Spies, mercenaries, soldiers, and pirates. You pick the teams and they're ready to go, or the game master can use them as NPCs. So we've got additional archetypes in there for those characters. Then we've got additional edges and hindrances. There are a ton of edges and hindrances in the core rules for Savage Battlelords. But we had a lot more. And again, we're trying to keep the core rules simple and easily digestible. So it's a lot of material is sort of split between the core rules and the Carnage Companion. And if you download the Quick Start rules, there is a list of every edge and hindrance that are in both books, and it'll tell you which book they're in. So there are new edges and hindrance in the Carnage Companion, and some of them are really cool. I really like a lot of the edges that we came up with for Savage Battlelords. And by the same token, there are new sets of armor and weapons that appear in the Carnage Companion that are not in the core rules. And again, that was to keep the core rules quick, streamlined, easily digestible. This is what you got. If you want to expand on that and bring in new types of weapons and armor, you can get those weapon systems in the Carnage Companion. And then the Carnage Companion also has vehicles and ultra armor in it. So again, if you want to expand past the infantry armored personnel combat that's in the core rules and start getting vehicles involved, we have that option, but it's not something that you have to deal with if you just want to stick to the core rules and keep it streamlined.
Going back to our Matt and I when we played Savage Worlds together, one of the things that seemed a little clunky to us were like chase rules. Did you have you adapted any kind of new chase rules for your version?
For the vehicles, we really tried, again, that was feedback we got from a lot of the play testers. If there's a mechanic there, use it. So we really tried to stick with the existing chase mechanics. There are new chase actions that you can do that are available in Battlelords that are not available in Savage Worlds, like sprint systems on Ultra Armor or cloaking devices or displacement. So there are new things you can do, but a lot of those build on the existing rule set. Now, in the Alliance setting guide, we have spacecraft, and the chase rules have been. I don't want to say we've deviated from them, but we've got two options. And if you've read traditional Battlelords, option one is don't worry about the chase rules. The guy in the faster ship is going to catch you. You're screwed. Deal with it. Unless you can hit that FTL before he gets to you, you're going to be repelling borders. And that's because we wanted to encourage that, the focus is not the ships chasing each other. The focus is the characters fighting. And so that's the first thing I say in that chapter is you can throw the chase rules out. And, if you want to use them, that's great. And we have rules on that. But in open space, in deep space, if they're faster than you, you've got a problem. Unless you can blow them out of the sky with your weapon system, they're going to be knocking on the hatch. And then for the traditional chase rules, we've greatly expanded on those because in Battlelords, again, to keep the focus on those players, on their characters, everybody's doing something in a spaceship chase, and we've carried that over to Savage Battlelords. So the chase actions, the chase maneuvers that you can use in Savage Battlelords depend at which command console you're sitting. If you're a gunner, you're going to be shooting at stuff. You're not going to have the helm actions available to you. If you're the engineer, you're going to be pumping the engines or trying to get the flux shield back up. So it's and then as in traditional Battlelords, those actions are going to be divided up between, well, I really need to get these engines back online, but there's a ram python who's not a member of our crew standing at the hatch, and he looks really angry. Maybe somebody should shoot him. So you have to divide your actions between what's going on in the ship and what you really need the ship to do.
You've got all these new edges and hindrances. Mm-hmm. Like what parts of? I'm assuming you mined a lot of that from the existing rules. Like where did those come from? Were those like I, as a Battlelords player, where would I recognize those hindrances and edges coming from?
We've got 30 plus years of Battlelords history, and we really did mine through that for the edges and hindrances, particularly the ones that are species specific. So we've gone through all the old I was just growing up tables and all of the old information in the books. And, so like these the Eridani species, for example, some of their body equilibrium training, their martial training is, some of them can get iron skin from, bone hardening. So that's now an edge in Savage Worlds. There's a form of Eridani meditation that's mentioned where they'll just stand like statues for prolonged periods as a method of practicing their self-control. That's an edge. In Savage Worlds, it makes you really hard to throw or off balance. The Fintari, we detail their mating rituals, and you get bragging rights as a Fintari if you've been able to mate more than once and your significant other hasn't killed you. Kind of like Black Widows in that respect.
You're still alive.
You're still alive. So that's an edge. You get more combat proficiency with that edge because you've survived multiple matings with your significant others. And we dug all through the lore to get those edges. There's the Ram Python pit chefs who are sort of like the Ram Python version of a hibachi or a teppanyaki chef, where they wrestle the beast in the arena and then they cook it for you. That was mentioned in the old Battlelords books, and that's there are edges related to that. You get bonuses for fighting non-sentient opponents. And so we really mined the 30 plus years of Battlelords lore to get a lot of those species edges and hindrances, and a lot of them came out of the I was just growing up tables that you guys are fans of. That's
very cool. It's a cool way to incorporate that in the new system, right?
Yeah. Matt, you have any questions you want to?
I guess maybe one. So I'll throw a kind of an oddball question: is playtesting this and looking at some of the converting over into the Savage realms. Has there been any talk about compatibility with some of the other Savage systems that are out there? And I guess the one that comes to me as I'm brainstorming is all your guys' amazing equipment and like all this stuff. I'm thinking, could I mash that together with like one of the other systems that's out there that they've converted? I don't know how compatible your conversion is with some of the other Savage World settings.
Yeah, it's. I don't think there's been any discussion from the playtesting group, but the game was designed so that the core is still Savage Worlds, and you were using concepts and rules from Savage Worlds. We actually built it as bringing futuristic armored infantry combat to Savage Worlds. So the short answer to your question is yes. I mean, for the most part, the armor mechanics is just resistances and weaknesses and wounds that are already mechanics in Savage Worlds. So you can easily port those over to an existing system. And most of the unique abilities of the weapons are triggered on attack roll raises, which is the standard Savage Worlds rule. So yeah, you can port any and all of this over to another Savage Worlds game for the weapons in Armor and Battlelords are basically designed to work together. The weapons are designed to find that workaround to the armor, and they all do it in different ways. So you would probably make sense to port them both if you were going to do that. But yeah, you could easily do that in other Savage World settings.
So if you want that spaghetti western with plasma weapons, you can probably do so.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple more questions. Say I'm somebody who's been playing Battlelords for a long time. If I pick up the Savage World rules, what am I going to like about it?
If you're a previous Battlelords player, I think the appeal is going to be it's fast. It's something that if you want to get somebody to play Battlelords, you can get a game going right then and there. So I think that the main appeal from a traditional Battlelords standpoint is it's faster and it's more streamlined, which was the goal of making it. I think Dave and I would describe it. We're huge BattleTech fans, and you can do a game of BattleTech with 4 mechs on a team, and it'll take you 8 hours. Yeah. Or you can play WizKids Mech Warrior, which is the same setting, and you can have 20, 30 mechs on a side and get it done in 2 or 3 hours. So I think that's one of the other appeals of it is you can do massive battles using Savage Battlelords because there's just a lot less record keeping.
Well, to give you an example directly from Battlelords, 6th edition, you're fighting 4 other guys and you're in a different squad. The combat, if you're on high end with high end armor and weapons, can literally take hours for a 30-second fight. I mean, there was times when we were running around in mechanized battle armor and it took 3 to 4 hours for that 30-second fight. Now, when we revamped the system, that went from 3 to 4 hours to probably about 30 minutes because we've simplified it as much as we could and still kept the flavor and tried to add all that stuff in. And I'm thinking what Tony's done now is he's even taken that further and gone from that 30 minutes to like 5. So it's just kind of shortening down. So, combat's still important and it's a big part of the game, but, you're seeing the effect quicker and it doesn't have to drag out.
Yeah, and some people like that really have to have that simulations feel, but I could definitely see where you have like mixed group. Like we play with our wives and some of our friends, and sometimes the stuff, the battles that kind of drag on. There are players that really don't necessarily get into that, and they just want to kick some ass and then move on to the next fight. So I could definitely see that the person that really loves the Battlelords setting, but wants to bring in some people that maybe not necessarily want to spend 4 hours on one fight.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see that. Other question I had was, so when you're using Pinnacle's system, how easy was that as designers for you to kind of to build your setting into their system? Do they have a lot of tools to help you get started? Is there any kind of interaction with their teams? Is there support? What's that like for an indie publisher?
My Savage Worlds book is out of reach, but essentially it's like, here's the book.
Figure it out.
Yeah. They are very generous with encouraging people to build games for their settings, but they don't have the staff or the manpower to walk everybody through that. Nor do I think that's their business model. I don't think they want to do that, and they have their reasons for that. So I had to figure it out on my own. I was fortunate to have some really, really talented Savage Worlds players who are play testers. And they're actually getting design credit in the game because Nice. They really helped out with some of the more complex stuff. But it was definitely, it felt like Michelangelo making David, chisel, no, chisel. And it took a lot of chiseling to get that to fit and to get it to look right. But it's you don't get much guidance other than what you can and cannot use. You're basically restricted to their core rules. You can't use any of their other setting rules, any of their other setting information. Their style guide, which we tend to deviate a little just because of our writing style. As I'm sure you guys have known from looking at our books, we are a little wordy. For the most part, it's you can go make it, but you got to figure it out yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to see it. So, when you plan on, or do you have a date set for the Kickstarter? Or are you narrowing it down right now?
We're shooting for spring of 2022. Right now, everything is focused on getting fully armored out the door to the printer. What we're seeing, because our increasing industry standard used to be 3 months, and now it's 4, primarily because of shipping delays. So we're really working to get that out. But we would like to get the Kickstarter going spring of this year.
Okay. Exciting. Matt, do you have any last words?
No, I'm just excited. We're really enjoying. I know we talked a little bit before you logged in. We're enjoying playing the system. Tier and Chris introduced it to us, and we've really had a blast. So this is pretty exciting just to get to know the traditional system, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Savage version as well.
Yeah, it's. I was joking. Matt pointed out to David and Kurt that I spent the whole last session making Chris look up rules because I was just changing I was switching from rockets to melee to the goo gun to just to keep him busy. It was a lot of fun for me, but maybe not for everybody else. Luckily, I can edit a lot of that down, so it's not a lot of sitting on for listeners. David, any last words for us?
Thanks for having us on. We appreciate the opportunity to talk and share a really cool universe with people and lots of different fun ways to play.
And Kurt, take it to the Viking.
All right. Basically, to build on what Dave was saying, our setting is what sells it for us. I mean, we've got a broad, diverse setting with multiple species that don't always like each other. So if you like that interplay and you like that background and you want to play something other than a space dwarf, come on out, play a Ram Python, play a Fot, play a Rosette, or a shapeless blob. Have fun with it. Do whatever you want. Enjoy the universe.
Yeah, and I'll throw a quick plug in for there's the art guide on DriveThru that has a lot of the character art, which is pretty cool and gives you a nice feel for the system. Definitely check out their Discord. They have a pretty nice Discord where a lot of the Battlelords fan gather and commiserate and talk about the rules and whatnot. So definitely check that out. And what's your Twitter handle there, Tony? What are you?
Battlelords RPG, and we also have Battlelords is Granny's account. Colonel Prunella Frump, who is our spokesman. If you're looking for gruff Granny, she'll get you some Battlelords advice.
And your website, you've got a lot of materials on your website for download.
Yeah. And we've been so busy. I've been remiss in updating our website, but we have a ton of new interviews and reviews that we have to get posted to our links page.
Well, hopefully I'll have this one done for you soon. And Tony, any last words for the listeners?
No, thanks for having us on. We encourage everybody to check it out, whether it's traditional Battlelords or Savage Worlds Battlelords. The quick start rules are free. If you like military science fiction and you like amazing art, I tell everybody just download the quick start rules. I guarantee you, even if you don't like the game or the setting, the art will amaze you. And that's usually what gets people into the art, or gets people into the game. Like what Kurt said, it's the setting and the art. And once you see that and realize you can really do just about anything in the game in terms of play styles, I think that's what draws people in. So check it out, and we think you'll like it.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so that wraps us up. Thanks for watching or listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks to Tony, Kurt, and David, the whole Battlelords crew there. Really appreciate you having you on the show again, and looking forward to seeing you again, and looking forward to that Kickstarter launch coming this spring. Thank you. Good night.